Hi, I'm Dr. Bec Bennett, and you're tuning in to the AIMER video series. This is a practical, research-informed program designed to help hearing care professionals provide holistic care by supporting the social, emotional, and mental well-being of clients with hearing difficulties. In this series, we're going to explore how you can feel more confident and equipped to support your clients' social and emotional well-being as part of your everyday audiological care. Even though hearing loss deeply affects how people feel, interact, and connect, many of our clients still go without the support they need. And that's where AIMER comes in. It's a structured program grounded in evidence to help clinicians like you and me feel more confident and capable in supporting our clients' social, emotional, and mental well-being. So what is AIMER exactly? AIMER is a framework, a practical, flexible, and evidence-based approach that guides well-being focused conversations. It was co-developed by adults with hearing difficulties, hearing care professionals, psychologists, gerontologists, and behaviour change experts with one clear aim: to support hearing care professionals in the workplace, enabling them to better support the social and emotional and mental well-being needs of their clients. AIMER isn't designed to add more to your workload. It's designed to help structure what many of us are already trying to do and to build the knowledge, skills, and confidence to do it well. It's supportive, not prescriptive. You can choose as much or as little of the AIMER program as fits into your current practice. And the videos you're watching now, they're freely available. You can return to them at any time to refresh your skills, pick up ideas you might have missed, or just find encouragement when you need it. So why does this matter? Well, this isn't just theoretical. We know from clients that they often feel unheard, overwhelmed, or disconnected because of their hearing loss. And often this stems from unmet needs that fall outside of hearing thresholds and hearing aids. The AIMER program helps you recognise and respond to those needs in ways that are both safe and impactful. But don't just take it from me. Let's hear it from clients. I'd like to show you a little video of real stories from adults with hearing loss. It highlights the kind of support they wish they'd received.
I do feel excluded because sometimes you hear conversations and laughter and you're not part of it. You hear bits of it, but not the whole conversation.
When I gave up work, I was devastated. You know, I was at the top of my game in a fabulous career, and I had to give it up because I just had to deal with the ear health, had to. There was nobody I could talk to about how devastated I felt.
Loneliness is an issue that comes with hearing loss. Two people are having a conversation and you're a third party in the conversation, and they're talking, and I'm thinking, what on earth are they talking about? In order to avoid having to communicate with people, I'd rather just be by myself.
I almost play cryptic crosswords when I'm listening to people because I hear a word, I've got to make an interpretation as what that word was, and I can quite often get the wrong meaning.
The stick.
I have been embarrassed in that scenario.
Without realising it, I probably speak quite loudly now. I mean, a guy walked in that I didn't know, and I turned to my daughter who was sitting next to me and I said, "Oh, is that so-and-so?" But apparently I said it in a very loud voice, and she said to me, Mum, you know, you're speaking too loud. And that was very embarrassing in that situation.
I would say that I have felt excluded at most social gatherings, even with hearing aids. Despite telling people that you are hearing impaired or deaf, they don't change their behaviour. And I've got to the stage now where I actually avoid large gatherings. I don't mind going one-on-one or one-on-two, and that's about my limit, because you get tired of saying to people, I can't hear you, I can't understand you.
Usually I just sort of think, how long is this going to last? Hopefully it won't be too long.
You know, when you're somebody who has always enjoyed being social, who's enjoyed networking and things like that. It's a bit of a shock to your system.
My wife might be watching a TV program and she'll suddenly laugh, and I say, what happened then? And she'll say, I'll tell you later, because otherwise she'll miss the rest of the program, obviously. And most of the time later doesn't come, so as a result there tends to be that issue of exclusion.
It's a continual frustration in our day-to-day life. It doesn't matter how long you live with someone who's deaf, you think they're not. You're not aware of it all the time. You just think they can hear like you. So I'm continually repeating everything I say, because even though I'm aware that he's deaf, it's not something that's embedded in my brain.
My audiologists have never discussed the feeling of isolation or loneliness that I have with hearing loss. I don't think it's ever occurred to them to discuss it.
I guess it's not something that, when you go there and you have a hearing test, don't necessarily think of things like this.
It would be great if an audiologist could take you a little bit further down and the path on the other emotional side, not just the physical hearing aid side.
If my audiologist had tips that could help me in certain situations, I'm sure I would gladly receive them.
Whew, I've watched that video so many times, but still, every time I hear Doug's raw description of his lived experience, it gives me goosebumps. I think it's so easy for us to forget how insidious the well-being impacts of hearing loss can be. But really, it's our job not to forget. It's our job to show up as the healthcare professionals who listen, who understand, and who support people holistically as they navigate life with their hearing loss. And so you might be wondering, is this the experience of all clients or just the few who really struggle? We wondered the same thing, so we asked. First, we surveyed hearing care professionals across Australia to find out what they thought. But before I share their responses, I'd love for you to reflect on your own. What proportion of your clients do you think experience the following in relation to their hearing loss? Take a moment to think about each one. Do you think your clients experience loss, missing out on things? Do they experience worry about hearing or saying the wrong thing? Do they experience frustration? Do they feel left out? Do they experience strain on relationships? Do they experience embarrassment, loneliness, feeling like a burden, helplessness, anger? If you've downloaded the workbook, then this is the perfect place to jot down your reflections. Check the comments section below if you need the link. So please go ahead and pause the video if you need any more time. All done? Great. Now, let's have a look to see if your responses compare with those of other hearing care professionals. So here's what we found. Most hearing care professionals reported that their clients frequently experience loss, worry, frustration, feeling left out, strain on relationships, embarrassment. Fewer clinicians perceived that their clients might experience feeling like a burden, helplessness, or anger. But here's the critical thing to note. This isn't a measure of what clients actually feel. It's a measure of what clinicians perceive their clients to feel. And when we interview adults with hearing loss, they tell us consistently that they've experienced all of these feelings at least some point during their journey of hearing loss. So why aren't we seeing straight fives in the graph? Where's the mismatch? I believe the answer lies in how we structure our appointments. Too often, I feel like healthcare professionals, we're trained to extract information. What are the hearing difficulties? What are the listening situations? Where will hearing aids help? We're trained to tune ourselves into the specific bits of information that align with what we're trying to achieve. I'd like to propose a shift. Let's broaden our perspective. Let's not zero in on the hearing loss and the intervention, but let's widen our view. Let's consider the social, emotional, and mental well-being impacts of hearing loss and support our clients as whole people. To better understand the lived experience of the social, emotional, and mental well-being impacts of hearing loss, we asked adults with hearing difficulties to share their experience in their own words. Unsurprisingly, they didn't just talk about missing sounds. They talked about missing connection. One person said, "I stopped going out. I couldn't keep up. I felt stupid." Another said, "I wear my hearing aids, and then I smile and I nod, but inside, I'm drowning." Another said, "I just pretend to understand. It's easier than feeling like a burden." These are not rare responses, but they are heartbreakingly common. This is the human impact of hearing loss, and it often goes unspoken within the four walls of the audiology room. Let's talk about coping. Participants in our study described a wide range of coping strategies they use to manage the social and emotional impacts of hearing loss. Some were helpful, like building confidence, keeping them engaged, and preserving their connections. Others were less helpful, strategies that looked like coping on the surface, but actually led to more isolation, frustration, or emotional fatigue over time. Let's break it down. So, helpful coping strategies. These are the ones that support well-being and encourage continued connection. These include things like telling others about one's hearing loss, so disclosure, asking for repeats or clarification, using hearing aids consistently, moving conversations to a quieter space, and staying socially active, even when it takes effort. One of our participants said, "I've learned to advocate for myself. I tell people I need to see their face when they speak." These kind of approaches are empowering. They support the person's sense of agency and reduce stress over time. Less helpful coping strategies might feel easier in the moment, but they can backfire emotionally. So these include things like avoiding difficult conversations altogether, or pretending to understand and hoping that's enough in the moment. Things like nodding or laughing to mask confusion, as well as withdrawing from and withdrawing within social situations. As one participant put it, "I just smile and nod now. It's easier than explaining, but I don't really feel part of things anymore." So it's important to kind of reconceptualize how we view these strategies. These less helpful strategies don't necessarily reflect failure, they reflect overload. When people are tired, overwhelmed, or unsupported, they do what they can to protect themselves. But over time, this type of coping shrinks their social world. Now, as hearing care professionals, it's important for us to consider that when our clients tell us they're managing, they might be referring to these unhelpful coping strategies. So we might see someone as having only mild hearing loss, but they might feel constant fatigue from listening effort. We might see someone with good speech scores, but they might feel anxiety about misunderstanding others in some of those really difficult situations. We might see a client that's just smiling and nodding along to the conversation, but they might be feeling fear of being judged or excluded. We might see a client using humour, but they might be hiding sadness or shame. The humour might just be a mask. I guess what I'm trying to say is emotional distress doesn't always look like distress. It can look like composure. It can sound like, "I'm fine." And that's why psychosocial care matters. When clients mask their distress, we might miss the chance to help. Not because we don't care, but because we didn't know how to ask. As some of our participants have said in our previous studies, everyone thinks I'm coping, but I'm not. It's like my world is getting smaller, and I didn't realize it until I was already alone. And so this is where a structured framework like AIMER can make a real difference. It helps us gently, compassionately open up these conversations. As Judy said in our interviews, I wish someone had asked me how I was really doing. So often, our appointments centre on hearing, not coping. And if we never ask, we'll never know. That's the gap AIMER is here to close. Because hearing care isn't just about sound, it's about identity, social inclusion, and emotional well-being. AIMER began as a framework designed to guide the development and delivery of audiological services. And from there, we developed the AIMER program, a way to train hearing care professionals in how to deliver audiological services using the AIMER framework. But before we dive into the program content, I want to take a moment to talk about something that often comes up when we begin these conversations. I get asked this a lot. Is it really within our scope of practice to support the social, emotional, and mental well-being of my clients? And my answer is always yes, absolutely yes. If you look at scope of practice documents from professional bodies around the world, including Audiology Australia, ASHA in the US, and the British Academy of Audiology, they all clearly state that the role of the hearing care professional includes recognising and supporting the social, emotional, and psychological impacts of hearing loss. But it's important we're also clear on what this does and does not include. We must understand and respect the boundaries of our practice. Most of us are not trained mental health practitioners, and that means we should never be diagnosing mental health conditions, and we should not be trying to treat them. So, how do we find that balance? Well, to help conceptualize this, I want to introduce you to a model that's been incredibly useful in this space, the two continua model of mental health. Historically, mental health was viewed on a single continuum, with mental illness at one end and mental wellness at the other. But we now understand that mental health is better represented by two separate but related continua. The x-axis represents the presence or absence of a psychological diagnosis. On one end, we have people with conditions like depression or anxiety. On the other, people with no psychological diagnosis. And now the y-axis represents a person's level of mental well-being. At the top, individuals who are flourishing, and at the bottom, individuals who are languishing, feeling stuck, disconnected, or struggling. This model creates 4 quadrants, allowing us to understand mental health in a more nuanced, human way. Let me give you an example. One of my friends lives with bipolar disorder. He's had that diagnosis for all of his adult life. There was a time where he also had low mental well-being. Life was hard, not just because of the diagnosis, but because he wasn't doing well emotionally or socially. But over the last 10 years, he's truly flourished. He still has that diagnosis. He always will have bipolar, but his mental well-being is really high. He's in a loving relationship, he has a stable job, he's a wonderful father, and he's thriving. He loves where he lives, he loves what he does, and he's really enjoying his life. He's no longer weighed down by those dark thoughts. Instead, he's building a life full of meaning, strength, and connection. So now, you might be wondering, what has this got to do with hearing healthcare? Well, when a client has a psychological diagnosis, it can be important context for us as clinicians. It doesn't mean we're stepping into the role of a psychologist, but it can help us to offer more considered, person-centred care. In fact, research by Dr. Emma Laird at La Trobe University in Melbourne has shown that there's a bidirectional relationship between hearing loss and psychological conditions. What does this mean? It means that hearing loss can make the lived experience of anxiety worse, but also anxiety can make the lived experience of hearing loss worse. Understanding a client's psychological status can help us see how their hearing challenges, things like tinnitus, hyperacusis, or listening fatigue, might interact with or contribute to that psychological diagnosis. Understanding a client's psychological status can help us see how their hearing challenges might interact with or contribute to that psychological diagnosis. And just as importantly, it can help us understand how that diagnosis might impact their experience of hearing loss and also their experience of the hearing interventions or support programs we offer. Here's an example. Let's say your client tells you about the anxiety that they experience and you fit them with hearing aids for the first time. Now, your clinic is in a busy, noisy shopping centre. So you might explore with them, do they want to wear their new hearing aids from your clinic through the shops and out through the car park? Or would they feel more comfortable popping them in at home, in quiet, in a familiar setting, where they can ease into the amplification more gradually and control the environment of their initial experience? This isn't about making assumptions on what certain people do or don't need. It's about offering thoughtful, flexible options based on an awareness of their lived experience. But here's the key point. We're not trained psychologists. We're not trying to diagnose or treat psychological conditions. And that means we're not working to move people along the x-axis. But where we can and should support our clients is up the y-axis. That's where we do our best work. Let's say a client is feeling excluded, disconnected, or lonely, and they've just shared that hearing loss plays a big part in that. That's where we step in. We can explore how hearing interventions like amplification or communication training might help them reconnect. We can talk about group rehab programs or environmental modifications that improve their listening experience. We can connect them with peer support groups, local communities, or advocacy networks. We can even suggest apps that support hearing and communication in everyday life. And in doing these things, we're helping clients reflect, take action, and shift their mindset, reducing social, emotional, and mental well-being impacts of their hearing loss, helping them flourish. And that, right there, that's what AIMER is about. So, what can you expect from this series? It's self-paced. You can watch the videos anytime and in any order, but I do recommend following them in sequence. Everything is grounded in real research and shaped by the voices of real clients. You'll be given practical tools, not just theory, and there'll be space to reflect, apply, and share. You can pause, take notes, come back later, and revisit the videos at any time you need. These videos will always be here for you. Before we wrap up, I want to invite you to take a moment to reflect. What stood out to you in this video? What did it help you notice about your current approach or your current assumptions? Now flip to your workbook and you can identify one small change that you might feel ready to make in your day-to-day practice. Maybe it's committing to finishing the whole video series. Maybe it's exploring how you can better understand the emotional needs of your clients. Or maybe it's simply tuning in a little more to the feelings your clients are already sharing. Jot down 3 actions you could take to move towards this change. Doesn't need to be perfect. Reflection is where change begins, and even one small shift can open the door to stronger connection and more meaningful care. Thanks for tuning in to AIMER video number 1. In our next session, video number 2, we're going to be exploring why AIMER and digging deeper into the gaps in current audiological practice. Thank you for standing in this space with me. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.